Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome back to Shelf Stories, the channel that tells tales from games, books, and life. I am your host, Jason. Thank you so much for stopping by to the party. Look at all these handsome faces on a Zoom call who are going to be with you for the next, however long we feel like it. We are chatting. This is a preview series. I used to do these on Every Night is Game Night all the time. And for those of you who listen to the old show, you will recognize that I have two gentlemen who have been on for every single Blacklist game. Happy to have them on and continuing the tradition, not only of reviewing Blacklist games, but sharing a top three of something very silly. So go ahead and stay tuned for that. But let me not belabor the point anymore. I'm happy to welcome the Sadlers. On the top, I have Adam Sadler. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the peoples.
Hello, how's it going?
He is the twin with the short hair, the twin with the big, bushy, long hair, who can't wait for 2020 to end because of all the madness and the insanity. That is Brady Sadler. Say hello to the people.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
And helping me out for the One Stop Co-op Shop, I always have somebody with me to help interview the Sadlers, have fun. We had Derek Rodriguez, we had Mike DeLisio, we had Liz Davidson. Added to this illustrious star-studded lineup is Michael Kelly from the One Stop Co-op Shop. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks for having me here, Jason. Really excited to join the conversation.
We are not talking about a modular deck system game for the first time in about 7 games. Matter of fact, here we go.
There you go. Yeah.
I did not do that on purpose. I have video evidence that these have been there the entire time. I got all my MDS games, at least the ones that are released right now, but we're not talking about that. We are talking about a new Kickstarter that is going to launch very, very soon as of the posting of this video. It is Dire Alliance: Horror.
Got to get the colon in there.
Yeah.
It means we're going to get Dire Alliance other things.
Yes. Dire Alliance, the sitcom.
Right.
Spaceballs, the breakfast cereal.
We were at the same place, the breakfast cereal. The latest game, which is a card game for 1 to 4 players, plays competitively and cooperatively. We are going to break down all of that in this preview series episode. So, before we get to Dire Alliance, I think I want to kind of set the scene and talk about Blacklist, because it's been a very interesting year for Blacklist. You guys had Kickstarter after Kickstarter after Kickstarter. They just came one after the other, really pumping out games, getting content up there. And then it kind of slowed down with everything, with COVID. And there was a little bit of a kind of brouhaha with like shipping and stuff. And now you guys are back. So maybe talk a little bit about, talk a little bit about the journey and how you guys were able to kind of go through this stuff and then get back on track.
Yeah, sure. Adam, I'll let you pick up where I leave off here, because I'm just going to mention that, we had several successful Kickstarters that allowed Adam and I to come on full time. So that was great. That was a weird transition for us coming back into games full time, because we were, doing it as like a kind of just a night gig for a long time. But the ironically, Street Masters Aftershock, the big Kickstarter, which was remind me, was it 2018
was when the Kickstarter was.
And fulfilled, 2019. So that was the one that allowed us to come on full time. And that's the one that hit a lot of hiccups as far as fulfillment goes. And there's a lot of, really boring logistical stuff that we can't even fully explain yet, because we're still investigating where a lot of the things went wrong. But Adam, you probably have more experience on handling the customer service into that. So if you want to touch on a high level, that whole
essentially, we won't get too into the details, but essentially, right. We had issues with our fulfillment partner. We had a black box fulfilling the Kickstarter. There was an issue early on where they didn't send stretch goals to a bunch of people, and then when they tried to fix it, they sent stretch goals to the people who already had them. So they doubled up on some people
without telling us they'd been bought, like they were going through a big acquired.
Apparently, we find out after all this back and forth and stuff, and missing inventory and all this stuff, that they had been acquired by AdMagic, and then AdMagic had to deal with all their new customers, and I don't think we were very high on their list. Lots and lots of back and forth, trying to figure things out. We got to the point where we said, you know what, we're just going to send inventory to Quartermaster Logistics, our new fulfillment partner for our projects going forward, and they're going to help us out sending out these missing stretch goals, and anybody who's missing anything else, we're going to be doing a full-on reprint of all of Street Master's inventory. Actually, this month, we're going to, around Essen time, we're going to put up a pre-order for all our Street Masters inventory. And with that pre-order, we're going to make sure everybody who's missing something gets what they have. Plus, they're going to get a free little expansion because we have a couple new Street Masters products that we're going to release as well. So
yeah,
that's
since
that whole
then,
Street Masters mess.
yeah, and then since then, like during that whole escapade, we actually managed to put another Kickstarter out, which was one of my probably the design I'm most proud of. Hour of Need, that was funded last fall. So that's getting close. We're getting all the files ready to print, so it's going to be delivering probably not at the same time, but pretty close to what is also shipping the Fantasy Series 1 miniatures, which finished up this summer. So those are hopefully going to be kind of simultaneously getting out to all the backers. But I'm really stoked about those projects. Really excited. That's what led us to the next one coming up.
A funny, ironic note about Our Need is I think it's one of our best games as a company at this point, and it's also our lowest funded. So it's kind of ironic.
I forget though. It's higher than Street Masters 1 though, right?
No, it's lower.
Was it? I thought it was
Street Masters the first Street Masters was 170 or something.
Oh right, yeah.
Well, you guys totally left out Alter Quest, right? That's one of the ones I'm most excited about.
Yeah, that one's really close to fulfilling now. It's with Quartermaster. They're waiting on it at their warehouse, and we're really excited to get that one out there. But yeah, we haven't had much to talk about with that other than just waiting on the boat. That's
we'll be doing a video of that one soon because we were playing. Adam and I were playing some recently. We played some encounters. It's been a while, kind of brushing back up on it, but it's awesome. If you like Street Masters, you will love the Alter Quest encounters.
Mike will have one on the One Stop Co-op Shop. I will have one on Shelf Storage. You are going to be covered in Hour of Need. And well, actually not Hour of Need, Alter Quest. I was going to say that about Hour of Need. You forgot to mention, Adam, you had the genius foresight to release at the same time as Marvel Champions.
And then
you would not believe
Brady
how angry
I was out there championing Marvel Champions to the world, saying it's like the best game ever.
Yeah, it was weird though because we went to Gen Con that year, and I mean Adam and I know a lot about what's going on at FFG because we work on projects with him a lot. And I went to Gen Con totally blindsided. I had no idea they had the IP, even though a bunch of insiders were like, "You're gonna love this next game we're doing." I'm like, "Oh," I was trying to guess what IP they might have. I'm like, there's no way you have Marvel. You don't have Marvel. It's got to be something else. And then it was Marvel, and I was like, we were already starting the process of putting Our Need out on Kickstarter. I was like, oh, this sucks. But it's at least more superheroes the merrier. So
speaking of Brady championing, I think the first time I heard about Undaunted. So we can shift over to Dire Alliance. So I remember Brady posts a lot. If you follow Brady on Facebook, he's posting all the time.
Don't follow.
Adam posts too. Adam posts too, but it's all 90% Warhammer and Brady posts the actual board games. I remember you loving on the Normandy, on the Normandy system, and I imagine that the Dire Alliance, which is based on the Undaunted card system, of which I think there's 3 releases so far.
Yep.
A light war game in the just iterating on different war scenarios. So then maybe you can tell us a little bit about how that marriage came about for this new game, which is Dire Alliance.
Yeah. The funny story about that is I was actually playing. I actually set up Undaunted Normandy because I got recommended a lot by people. Jeremy Salinas from Man vs. People, he's a local guy. He kept just saying, "You're gonna love this game. You gotta try it out." And I do like a lot of World War II stuff. And it was a cheap game, so I checked it out. And I was reading the rules, I was like, there's got to be something else in this game. I mean, what else is there? How can this be that great? But I set it up and I played with my daughter, and I was like, man, this is so cool. And I kept thinking in my head, as much as I love this theme and everything, this whole experience would be so cool to have a more of a kind of a chunky adventure or something in this, kind of arena. And I just randomly tweeted out a picture of me and Riley playing, and I tagged David Thompson, the designer, because I had talked to him sometime previously. I forget about what, but I was just like, oh, I would love to do a adventure game like this or something. And then he messaged me and he's like, hey, let's talk about that. So we got to chatting more, and he brought Trevor in, and we were just, let's figure something out. So we had a bunch of ideas about what we want to do together. We want to collaborate on something. Initially we were just going to have them come in and, design a game, but then they really wanted to collaborate and have us do a co-op solo thing. That's kind of our deal, co-op solo stuff. So yeah, after all these different iterations of different projects we were kind of conceiving, we fell on a timing thing where it's the Fantasy Series 1 miniatures are doing fantastic. We kind of need to follow up on something like that, and we would be landing somewhere in the Halloween time, and I've been really wanting to do a horror game, so it kind of just fell together, and we just started building that IP out and just figuring out what kind of like horror we want it to be and everything, and it just kind of steamrolled from there.
Mike, had you played Undaunted? I keep on wanting to say Normandy Undaunted. I hate when the words bleed together. But had you played?
Well, and just don't call it Unmatched, because then we'll really get confused.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Had you played? That's why I was like, okay, why is Brady loving on Unmatched? It's okay, but but had you played it before then?
The funny thing is, so just full disclaimer, like I've been playtesting Dire Alliance some. So I'm, I guess, somewhat less impartial than like the average person on a podcast and video interview. But no, actually,
games
no. I'm not saying either of us are impartial when it comes to the Sadler brothers. we got our bias. But no, it's funny. How did I even play Dire Alliance, Brady? Like, how did it happen that we played together on TTS?
You know, I think I was actually. I forget if I was talking to you about your experiences with Undaunted Normandy, because I don't know if it's before or after, but you were working on a solo variant, you know, because I was saying
because what I was going to say is I hadn't played Undaunted yet. Playing Dire Alliance, I was like, oh man, I should go play Undaunted. Okay. So I think you must have, so Brady and I chat pretty often just about designs and stuff. And I think you might have just brought it up. And so I played it. So I had not played Undaunted until after Dire Alliance, but then I went and got it. I loved it. And I did design a solo variant for it that's kind of become like the most popular one based on Facebook and BGG at least.
Yeah,
so,
baby.
Yay. Until we get, I know David Turksey and somebody else is doing an official one for next year. So that'll be cool. But we're not talking about Undaunted. We're talking about Dire Alliance.
I was.
I guess like, because that's the one I know, so I want to ask just a couple of questions based on it. So just to kind of set the basic scene, right? You know, Undaunted is a deck building game, right?
Tactical deck builder, yeah.
Tactical. What makes it tactical is that it's not just the cards. There's like a modular board type thing, and you're using the cards, and they're multi-use cards. As soon as you got multi-use cards, you got me, because and the cards you could use them to play, or you could use them to kind of determine initiative. Right, so like you could have a bomb card, like a 9 card, and it's really good. But like, you know, if you want to really go first, you got to use that 9 as initiative, and then you know you don't have that card to play on the actual game. Mm-hmm. So then you play your card, and then you do stuff on the tactical board, and it could be a lot of things, right? Like there's different scenarios, like you can area control, and you can kind of do more of a skirmish thing. But that's the core of the game. Is that kind of that?
Yeah. I think the weird thing about the high level explanation is stuff like, there's really minor stuff, like for example the scouts in the game. This is in Undaunted. They'll have this system where you have these fog of war cards, which is like dead cards in your hand, and you start off with some because you know it represents you not knowing the lay of the land essentially. And you can't even move into areas unless they're scouted. So when you scout an area, you have to add more fog of war cards to your deck. Only scouts get rid of those. So like that right there, that little thing, even just reading that in the rules, I didn't really fully comprehend it, but playing it, I was like, I just love that aspect. So those could be, they could be curses. They could be like, you know, being weary, all those different things. I kept thinking about how this would work in like a fantasy world or something. So it just, the system just really opens itself up to so many possibilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the other thing I'll add that I think is really key to Undaunted, and it's, I mean, you call it a deck builder, Jason, but to me, it doesn't feel like much of a deck builder. It's kind of its own beast in a way, because adding more cards to your deck, it's not like most deck builders where they are more powerful cards than what you started with. Sometimes they are. It depends on the scenario. But really, it's more about what units you want to focus on, which ones you want to activate more frequently. You know, like, do I want to really hammer them with machine gun fire? Do I want to hit them with mortars? Do I want more leadership? But it also goes into the damage mechanic, which I know Brady and Adam and David and Trevor have used in different ways in Dire Alliance. A lot of
designers.
Yeah, man.
So many ships.
It's a Dire Alliance.
That was a David Thompson joke.
But yeah, when a unit gets hit in these games, and you know, kind of different ways between the two systems, you lose that card from your deck. So the deck building is also like the life building in a way, and a unit having more cards is also more life. And it's really kind of this cool like interplay between that, like activations and redundancy of units so that they can stay around for a while.
Yeah, all the elegant, the game is really boiled down to just all the elegant necessities it needs to function. That's what really appealed to me. So, and plus, at the stuff Adam and I have designed in the past, we usually shove as much as we can into games, and we're trying different ways to like not do that, because I mean I still enjoy our designs, but once people get Hour of Need, for example, and they see the difference between like Street Masters and Hour of Need, just how much is not needed to make Hour of Need still feel like the same kind of experiences you have with Street Masters. So that was really appealing to me in that time frame. So like getting to actually collaborate with these guys with the system I liked so much for Dire Alliance was an awesome experience.
I remember because we did the Hour of Need pod with Derek, Adam was like, I want this game. First of all, I'm sick of MDS. Second of all, I want like the player areas to be clear. And I want like, simpler, kind of more streamlined, 1, 2, 3 turns, in terms of the phases. So we can kind of start to transition towards Dire Alliance. Maybe we could just start from a kind of a mechanism level, and I'll go to Adam. Is this the simpler game that you're kind of like pushing for?
Yeah, I remember this is actually reminds me of when Brady brought over Undaunted, because when I played it, I was like, yeah, we need to do more games like this, where he talked to me like in 2 minutes or whatever. When we were playing, we played through a scenario and it was really quick, really smooth. And after one game, I was like, I get it. This is great. Let's do something like this. And that led into the whole talking to David and Trevor. And actually, funny enough, when we brought that up to him, it turns out David has always wanted to do a miniatures game, like a big miniatures game. I was like, well, that's funny because that's all we do. So it came off of the success of Fantasy Series 1, our miniatures only Kickstarter. There's no game with it. But that opened the door.
Even though people like dying to be like, there's a game here, right? There's a game here, right?
Well, I mean,
there were definitely some. There were definitely some.
How many copies of Ultra Quest did you all sell in the fantasy miniature?
That's true, yeah.
We definitely sold a few of those, that's for sure. But yeah, it opened the door to us to be able to do miniatures separately. So one thing I wanted to push was giving players choices, where it's like we want to sell more affordable games to people who don't care about the miniatures, but also offer the miniatures people want them. So that's where this Dire Alliance Kickstarter came to fruition, was because we wanted to offer this more affordable game with a bunch of really cool miniatures, and you can get both if you want all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's really only feasible with like kind of a scaled back game, something that's not super heavy, lots of components, like a smaller box game. And Dire Alliance won't be like a small box, like it won't be the size of like Undaunted, which isn't that small anyway, but it's still, as far as Blacklist standards, it's going to be a smaller game.
Yeah, and it's the first for, it's Blacklist first for lots of things. It's a lighter game for sure. It's our first external designer. Yes, Brady and I were involved in it, but it's really their system that we're working with. And also it's our first competitive game. Blacklist has all of our games are co-op, because that's what Brady and I tend to design. But this one is both. So people that want some co-op action or some competitive action as well as their co-op, this gives you both, which is cool. So
we will definitely get to the co-op and solo and all that, and I have a lot. I know that Mike has a lot to say about that. I guess like theme-wise, maybe talk a little about, like you mentioned before, Brady, that you wanted to design a horror game, and you haven't, and Blacklist has not to this date. Like you've hit a couple of areas, but you haven't hit horror. Tell us, and I guess Halloween being a thing that played into it, but maybe talk a little bit about how Dire Alliance kind of brings alive the horror theme.
Yeah, that was something I was having trouble with, because we actually had a couple designs before this all started, as far as like what we want to do for our horror game, because I'm big into like more kind of urban, like Resident Evil style, like survival horror, like I love the whole corporate biological weapon espionage stuff. So we were trying to tinker with stuff like that, but it's really hard to market that, like we couldn't figure out like how to just come out of the door with that, because we wanted to come out with our horror series one that made sense. And the more we thought about it, the more we just kept coming back to these classic horror tropes, very, very classical, like Victorian horror, with our own little spin on it. It's still like a little fantasy. It's not just literally taken from the old black and white movies and putting on there, but it's much more leaning that way. So you got like the kind of Frankenstein monster style character. You got vampires and werewolves wolfmen, the wolfman, not.
Yeah, it does actually. It treads the line between horror and fantasy. I mean, a lot of these miniatures or characters make sense in fantasy and horror, but they're definitely just really strong classical horror themes.
Yeah.
So,
it's
like a vampire out of the monster manual from D&D or something like that.
yeah, it's more like Ravenloft. Yeah, like imagining kind of like that gothic horror fantasy stuff.
So
And
Ravenloft being
which-
oh
Dungeons and Dragons, come on, man.
yeah, it's Ravenloft was I don't know much about it personally. I just know from the artwork and stuff I've seen because I've never played the actual module or the
It's interesting though,
setting,
the Curse of Strahd, they're actually redoing that, and it's re-releasing this month conveniently, so
you can get
people
some
might want
miniatures
to.
for it. But it's very much in that style where it's got little bits of those classical horror movies. It's got like the Sleepy Hollow vibe. Just trying to get those kind of the foundation of horror because in the future if we do other series we can like do more modern horror stuff like slasher flicks and stuff like that. So we just thought this was a much better starting point for the horror line.
And again, this our attempt at giving people the best of both worlds. We know there's lots of people out there that like playing as the villains. I want to play as the bad guy, and all these classic monster tropes. Like horror tropes. There's lots of villains. So if someone wants to play as like Dracula or Frankenstein's monster or something like that, Dire Alliance gives you the opportunity in the competitive game to play as these cool characters to lead these different factions. On the flip side, when you play in the co-op solo mode, you play as heroes fighting these evil characters. So it's gives you a little both best of both worlds type thing. So
I like both of both worlds better.
Both the best worlds.
Jump in anytime, Mike. I know you have like you've played this and everything, but if you have anything you want to
unfortunately I've not actually played the competitive mode yet. David Thompson and I are setting up a date to play together because we talk a lot too.
Yeah.
Make sure you play the Grievers. If you get to pick your faction, pick the Grievers.
Okay. Yeah. Good to know.
So yeah,
I'll keep that in my
one of the cool things about the name Dire Alliance. There's lots of funny plays on that word, but what it actually means in the game is when you play the competitive game, you pick a faction to play as, and you get to pick these modular choices for leaders. So you can have any leader character leading this faction, and that's kind of what you're playing as. So you take your faction, you use your leader, you mix those cards up, and that's your starting deck of cards.
They're meant to be kind of like villains, they're the dire alliance. You're playing as like these bad guys essentially. So
so it's like, why would the Invisible Man go and help these?
Jason, they didn't really get.
Sorry, I got a lag or something.
You had a little,
that was me. I lagged.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say, Jason. See, they didn't get too far away from the modular deck system. They still got some modularity in the design.
And there's still decks too. So
now, I do want to ask because I haven't played it yet. I've just seen the rules. Is it a little bit like Death May Die-ish, like that you just literally take like these two decks, like your villain leader deck and like your faction deck, and just shuffle them right together and you're good to go?
You don't shuffle them, but you do. Well, it's similar in raid mode where you have your hero cards and your ability cards. Imagine a leader card and all your faction fighters, and you just shuffle those up. So it's similar to in that regard, but it is kind of that mashup idea where it's like, I'll take the Invisible Man. He's going to lead the Grievers, and we're going to fight the Countess against maybe some other factions we can't talk about yet.
So and basically, your starting hand is 2 copies of each of those characters. Because each character has so many cards tied to that character. That's how you activate that character. And so
each faction consists of 4 characters at least, sometimes more. 4 iconic characters with that faction, and then your leader's your 5th. So you'll have like a team of 5. Maybe more against another team of 5, and you can mix and match those. You also have a game board that's double-sided, and each side has different scenarios. So that also kind of gives you some more customizable options and stuff like that. So,
modularity.
You might call it modularity. I don't know.
So I mean, I guess like different scenarios like King of the Hill or Area Control or
there's a
Battle
lot of
Royale, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do because every faction also has objectives. So you'll have like the Grievers, for example. They're like the resurrectionists. They make the kind of flesh golem type monsters. So they want these graves. They want to go rob the graves and get body parts. So they'll have those objectives out, and they want to go secure those objectives. So like for example, one scenario might be whoever gets their 3 objectives first wins, and you have to go into the enemy lines to get those essentially. So it's kind of you're balancing out fighting off the bad guys with trying to grab your objectives. So there's lots of things you can do with that. And there's also other characters that can come into play through those scenarios, like special characters that are, whoever captures this guy first wins, stuff like that. So
Okay. Solo co-op. You mentioned before that
Yeah,
heroes. So I guess that's a little bit weird for me because like it sounds so cool. I'm gonna play the Invisible Man with all these grievers and everything, and then like now I go into solo co-op and I'm like a schmucky human hero.
Oh, you're not a schmuck, man. You're powerful. You have
Am I
awesome
loaded for bear?
combos. I mean, yeah.
you're not like a survivor. You're definitely
Okay.
it's much more like
you're a hero. Yeah.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, think like Van Helsing. Think, the Belmont
okay.
clan from
Yeah,
Castlevania. Like you're not
Got
a
it.
wuss. You're awesome.
That was honestly the genesis of what I wanted raid mode to be, because you could just take
So raid mode being the co-op.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there's battle mode, which is competitive, and raid mode is the solo co-op
Got it.
mode. So in raid mode, it shares a lot of the same mechanics as battle mode, but you take on different roles. So you'll have, instead of choosing a faction and a leader, you're choosing a hero and a hero class. So you could play as Vanessa, who's this really just badass vampire hunter. She's got a whip, and you can pair her up with whatever hero class you want. You could be a vampire hunter. You could be That's it.
Vampire hunter or exorcist. That's what
Exorcist. Yeah, I was or some other hero class.
Oh, sorry.
So
You want to keep your updates, like in
Yeah,
chat,
yeah.
Scotty yelling at you.
Stretch
update
goals.
fodder, yeah. So yeah,
just as we don't know when this is gonna land.
right. So unlike battle mode where you're commanding a squad, you have your hero, your one hero on the board, and you'll have, instead of fighter cards you're building your deck with, you're getting ability cards. So you can buy your characters like iconic ability card that makes them feel like a hero, and you can also buy different class abilities to kind of. And the interesting thing about the contents of your hand, these cards in your hand, they actually correspond to enemy types. So if a certain type of enemy damages you, you have to lose an ability of that same type. So like if it's a rank 1 enemy, you have to lose one of your rank 1 abilities. If you can't, you're defeated. So you want to build your deck both to have cool options to go on the offense, but also you have to be able to take the hits. So you have to kind of balance out what you're going to be playing into your action row and also keep it in your hand. And
Yeah, you want to diversify the types of health you have in your hand, which
yeah. But back to the high level, you get your hero built out, you pick your scenario. Also, it uses the same game boards, just different scenario sheets for the raid mode, and then you'll. Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, you take the faction boards, that you're using in battle mode, you flip them over, and there's a raid mode side, and it has the reference for all those faction fighters to be minions in raid mode. So you have that's the faction you're fighting against, and then all those leaders you had in battle mode, those are now villains. So you can choose your villain deck that you're fighting against. I want to fight against the Countess. You take her villain deck, you put it next to the faction board, and that's your opposition for the game.
Yeah, and typically the enemy's trying to do something, like the villain themselves is trying to go accomplish something or defeat a hero. That's their goal, and you're just trying to go defeat the villain unless the scenario has some other minor objective for you to accomplish before you do that. But mostly you're just trying to take out the villain before one of your heroes gets just overwhelmed by minions and villains.
Mm-hmm. Actually, before I go, I did forget to ask one thing before I go deeper into Excel Co-op, because this is in battle mode and in raid mode. Dice resolution. So there is dice resolution, and if you listen to a lot of the reviews, and I kind of had to study up before I did this video, a lot of them point out that it's almost like there's a mania around war games. War games have to have dice resolution. Like it's not a war game unless it has dice resolution. So it's like this game has dice resolution, and it can be very kind of all or nothing, so to speak. Like you can really build up, style. You don't build up like Mike was saying. You don't have an awesome deck, but build up your strat, right? And then it all comes down to the roll of dice. It's supposed to be exciting, but it's not, because you get all the strategy for it to come down to dice to a all or nothing kind of thing is very frustrating. So how do you guys? I know you guys. There's dice in every game, in every FDS game, and you guys have an interesting approach to dicing. So
Dices.
Dices.
I like to dice stuff up.
How do you integrate dice resolution in Dire Alliance?
So real quick, Adam, I'm gonna reference before you get into Dire Alliance. I'll reference because I've heard some reviews too as far as dice go, like in Unmatched. I did it, Michael.
Mike, that was you. Mike, that was you.
Undaunted. I've heard people say that like that is kind of like one thing they might not love is the dice, but it's done in a way where it's very simple and fast that it very ever costs you the game. It very rarely costs you the actual game, and you can do actions around that. But that is something I've seen come up before. And Adam, you can go ahead and talk about the Dire Alliance side of things.
Yeah, this is something we talked about early with them. We told them that they're more than welcome to use our dice system, our exploding dice system we always use with our MDS games. The whole focus type mechanic we typically use. But David and Trevor decided to go with a simpler, very simple custom dice hit block mechanic. But what they wanted to make it so is if you go to attack somebody, you're more than likely going to damage them. Like it's all about, this game's about positioning, getting the right position, the right situation, getting the right effects going on. So you're reliably going to hit somebody. So typically if you roll dice, your opponent rolls dice. And as long as the guy attacking rolls at least one hit, if the defender doesn't roll more shields than them, they're going to take a damage. So it's really on the defender to block that. So the defender has to be the one to block it.
In a lot of these games, you'll always have the defender breaking ties, which really ends up being kind of like a stalemate a lot of the time. Like it just kind of slows the game down. So that was a very conscious decision on their part, because in their initial playtest with battle mode, it stalled out a lot. And especially they even had that problem with the exploding dice and like the focus system, because it just allowed for a little too much control. And honestly, just the very basic solution of having the attacker win ties, it makes everything more interesting. It makes everything more dire, you might say. But it's it felt much better all together. So it works really well. And luckily in raid mode, most of the dice are just it's kind of just. It's not inconsequential because your planning still matters, but you have much more control of over your hero, because you can choose to just blow all your cards and buff your dice and get like a 6 or 7 dice pool against an enemy's 2 dice. Like, oh, this guy's gonna die no matter what, and you can still get unlucky, which is almost as fun. Like I've thrown I think a hand of 8 dice against an enemy who was throwing 3, and they ended up blocking my attack. I was like, nah, how'd that happen? But it didn't really feel like it was a bummer,
And with that really simple dice system, they are custom dice, but they're just hits and blocks, very very simple and intuitive. With that simple dice system, it opened the door to have different kinds of dice for different reasons. For example, the vampire faction in the game, the Shroud, they work off of this vampire die where if they drink some blood and get sated, they have more abilities that trigger off this custom die, so that's added to their roll to trigger different abilities. And there's also a hero class that uses something we call a hex die, and these can come in different ways. We have plans for all types of Dire Alliance games in the future to introduce new types of dice and stuff like that. So the simple foundation of that simple dice system opens the door to kind of adding to it with new types of dice in the future.
Yeah, we've essentially did a keyword system where if a keyword comes into play, if a character has the vampire keyword, that means whenever they're not sated, they get a roll. Whenever they're sated, they get a roll of vampire die. Whenever they attack somebody, damage them, they become sated. They get this vampire die. So it's very simple and clean how that's introduced in the game. Mm-hmm. But we just plan on in the future we'll just keep making more dice mitigation and dice customization options through these keywords, and just makes it there's a lot of design space there. And luckily it's a very simple system. It's not like a really crunchy where you're trying to +3 to this dice roll, -1 because of this guy. There's not a lot of modifiers or anything. So
no modifiers.
No, it's not a value-based dice roll. You're just rolling for symbols.
You might add a hit to your roll.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, but that's about it.
But not add 2, okay, you have 3 and I'm going to add 2 and you have a -+1 defense and all that.
Yeah, there's like dice pool mitigation essentially through various effects.
The combat is very quick in the game, so very easy to resolve.
And something I'll mention just for anybody who is kind of worried about randomness, and this really goes to David Thompson being one of the designers of the original system. If you've played any David Thompson games, because he does this I've played almost every game he's designed. I'm a big fan. And he does this in basically everything. He really likes having mechanics where no matter how much you exceed the defense by, you only hurt them once. Like you only take away 1 hit point, which does a nice job of like balancing out these extreme swings of luck.
Yeah.
And nothing against MDS. I love exploding dice and doing 1,000 damage just because I kept on rolling crits over and over again. That's great fun.
And someone that has 3 hit points. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
There's a reason why we design co-ops all the time, because we wouldn't want to be rolling crits against each other all the time.
Yeah, so you need that greater balance and competitive. So yeah, having played Undaunted, having played this one, I think this is even less random than Undaunted. Like the dice pools really tend to balance it out. And even if somebody gets a lucky hit on you, you're only losing like 1 card. It's not like your entire unit is dead.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
Right.
I do not see. I mean, some people hate dice, but if
And
you're
they're
not
crazy.
like, to that extreme, if you're not to that extreme, like I will not touch anything with dice level. This game's dice mechanics, kind of like I mean, I would say it fits in with the Blacklist kind of package really well, because Blacklist is all about with your all's kind of mitigating of dice, and you get the focus token even if you miss. It's the same kind of thing here. Like the dice are not going to destroy you. Like you'll always be generally okay unless you just make a ton of stupid moves over and over again.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's 2 reasons I think you touched on them both that people hate dice. One, it negates your choices. It makes it so their choices don't matter. And B, it can gum up the game. So like if you can roll yourself out of success. So it sounds like both of those things were considered when constructing the dice resolution system for this game.
Yeah. It's very much erring on just elegance as opposed to trying to get too clever with it. Just kind of doing what works and what keeps it clean and just keeps the game moving. So.
Right. Okay.
Just avoid getting hit in the game. Just don't get attacked.
Just dodge.
Don't let the vampires drink your blood. Got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Solo co-op. I'll bounce back to that one, and I'll go to Mike. I imagine you had a hand in designing the AI.
But no, I want to be clear. I didn't design anything with the solo co-op.
He's
definitely my sounding board, man. Like if I ever have any hang up I'm having, and like what would Mike do in the situation, man? So I was, because like he's super. I mean, I forget you use. It's not Discord. It's Slack, right? You have a Slack.
Well, no, actually, we have moved to Discord now.
Oh, Discord. Okay, yeah. So I remember you have like a very responsive community there, and you very tuned into what the people want and what the people like. So if I'm ever hung up on something and just need to talk through stuff, Mike's usually my go-to guy, because Adam's you can't talk to this guy, he's so grumpy all the time.
You have all of his stuff in your basement, so there's no way he's going to tolerate more from you.
I'm not talking to him until my house is done, so
I'm moving some boxes outside tonight.
I would describe my involvement as just, an active playtester who has had some design conversations.
Tell us about this AI. I think good co-op games need clean AIs.
Yeah, I'm curious, Adam and Brady, let me know how well I do, because I've clearly played it a lot less than you have. And I've played several iterations, but I've been playing what I think is the most recent one. So I really like the AI, Jason, because it's super clean, in my opinion. And I'm kind of, again, I don't know where this will air compared to like my review for the Kickstarter, but I'll be repeating myself a bit there, I guess. But basically, like Brady and Adam already said, in the raid mode, the enemies have their villain, who's like the boss, and they have their minions. And minions can spawn continuously, so you can have a bunch of these little guys running around. And at least with the current iteration, and I really like how this works, so, fingers crossed it stays this way, and I think it will. Like, you all are pretty happy with this one.
Yeah, it's pretty solid at this point.
Yeah, like, I think this is the keeper. The minions are primarily there to gum you up and attack you, but something I love is that they're also your level up mechanic. So it's not like a lot of deck builders where you have to, like, give up cards or spend resources or make, like, these either-or choices. If you go and kill the minions, you get to immediately add a card to your deck, like, for killing that minion. So it's this nice, like, little reward system that makes it fun to do the thing that is fun. Double your fun. The both of both worlds, or whatever you want to say.
The both of best worlds.
That's what I'm calling this episode, the both of best worlds. Dire Alliance with the Sadlers.
So the minions are attacking you, and the villain is the objective seeker. So it is kind of similar, in my opinion, to Street Masters. If you kind of remember, like the kind of mission uniqueness falls to the villain in a lot of cases, and they're like the ones running around and doing stuff. So the villain is trying to accomplish whatever they're trying to do. And what you're trying to do can vary from scenario to scenario, but the one I've played the most is just a pretty basic, like, kill the villain, you know, like a first time, like, learn the game kind of thing. So the AI is, I mean, it's silly simple, but it works really well. You flip a card from the villain deck. So this is not an MDS game. You don't have 15 decks. I love you guys. I love all your games. You know that. Go watch my reviews. You know I love them. But
I was gonna say, wait till you get Alter Quest, man.
But yeah, like it's a single deck. The cards don't stay in play except for that round. So you have to track like ongoing effects for the villain card that you've drawn for like more than, you know, a minute. And it'll say what the villain does, and it'll tell you which color of minion activate, because within the 4 like 5 types of minions for a faction, you'll have like there's yellow and blue and purple and whatever. And the minions have very basic AI. It's very much like Undaunted, actually, in that, or not, sorry. It's not like Undaunted. It's like my solo variant for Undaunted, which is not even official for the game, so forget I just said that. But it's like a lot of AI systems where they do one action. You just go down like a little tree, like, oh, can they do this? And they do that. Can they do this? But it's like really simple. Can they attack? No. Okay, then they'll move toward the closest person.
I think that's what I was most concerned about with like a tactics game, and I think that you're kind of anticipating questions that people have about the Kickstarter, and like it's a game with like a due to the map type thing.
Yeah.
And due to the map always have flowcharts, and those can go really wrong if you let them kind of get too much.
As somebody who plays maybe too many war games for a cooperative board game channel, it is very streamlined. Minions in general have like, I don't know, 2 or 3 possible actions. Almost all of them are either moving towards or attacking the closest hero. And the villains will just generally move towards the closest objective, and they have like a few tiebreakers, you know, like, oh, they want to be closer to a villain to also, closer to a hero to also attack a hero while they're moving toward the objective. So I find it very clean.
Okay.
But I don't know, Sadler, did I miss anything major?
No, I think the couple things that I wanted to also go into a little more depth what you mentioned was one of the trickiest parts was keeping that clean, the AI, because I just wanted like every enemy to have like 1 or 2 things they could do, but making that work, making it work where it's like you had to make things conditional, where it's like, here's an action, this enemy's going to move and then do this thing, or they're going to move and do this thing, so that then and mean different things in the rules. So you have to do certain things to make the other thing, you know, function. So that was what tricky to actually word right in the rules. But the other thing you mentioned that Mike really helped out with was the minion upgrade thing, like killing a minion to get a thing. That really came through with like Mike's testing, because we were stuck about how heroes actually gain things, because it was really convoluted before we tapped into that thing.
Yeah, I think
kick the
early
bucket
design
and
had like a search thing where you would like play a search card to try to get a card. And I was like, Brady, I'm not digging this, man. I don't like the searching thing. It's just like adding so much to the game. And I definitely agree with the playtesters were like, you know, they want to feel, before you were just kind of killing the minions to get rid of them. It's like, get out of here, get out of here. But like, you know, you should feel some kind of motivation to want to kill that thing, as opposed to just getting it away from you. So like, you know, going there and hunting them down to get upgrade cards gave you an incentive to like work yourself up to facing off against the villain, which I find cool in games. I like to get a little reward for knocking down a butcher that's in my way or something. So
and to peel the curtains back for a second, because you know, we heard already how Brady and Adam sometimes try to complicate things too much. I remember, Brady, you were like, no, we got to keep the search cards because they put down a token, and then each scenario can have a different use of that token, and you can have multiple rules for every. And I was like, oh my god, man!
You know my world, Mike. You know it now. You know why I'm so grumpy.
Oh, I get it, man. I get it.
That's why I go to Mike.
But I say the exact same thing Adam says.
Brady's got like a million ideas. It's my job to just shave them down.
I guess if there's a criticism of the MDS games, and I've stated this many, many times, and this is not a secret, like it can take a long time between turns. You know, like I'm doing my thing and it's all fun, and then there's like a upkeep turn, and then there's a add tokens turn, and then there's like a deal card turn, and there's like, okay, this card interacts with that card turn. It's like, okay, here I am back. And also not just like that rhythm, but like it kind of like expands as the game goes on, as more elements kind of get introduced into the thing. So it's like, okay, I started off, I'm playing Street Master, playing Brook City, there's a couple things, and then by the end of it, I'm like, okay, every like the Bada Cooperative Center, the multiverse does this in a way. Aeon's End does this a little bit cleaner, but still like. So I'm guessing. I guess my big question, and would be, do you feel like you've gotten that balance right in this game? Is this game simpler enough and carrying forward from the beginning of the game to the end of the game to where I'm like going back into my turn with a decent amount of time?
Yeah, one thing you will notice about like Street Masters and Brook City, and to an extent Alter Quest, I think Alter Quest was smoothed out some because of our experience with the MDS, is that the game was typically designed as a solo game, and we built basically 4 solo games on top of each other. And it's a direct result of Brady and I playtesting so much with just us, and we know the game pretty well. But we spend so much time playing 2-player that a lot of times 4-player or more kind of doesn't really come into our thoughts as much because we don't have that experience with that. So luckily we've been expanding our playtest pool and getting more people involved. And I think Hour of Need is pretty much the first game where we just focus purely on downtime, getting rid of downtime. That's our first game that's up to 6 players. I think during a playtest one time with new players, I think they finished a 6-player game in like an hour and a half. It was insane. Like it was great. It's like, okay, well, we got it. That's what we need to do. And this game, I think, is probably our fastest playing game. I think it's a direct result of working with David and Trevor, who have this system, I guess, evolution of system that they've been refining every time they make a new game. So that's a huge benefit for this game. But also, Brady and I we built raid mode from their system, but it's kind of its own thing now. It feels very similar, but also like that was Brady texting me.
Yeah, I had to relocate, and I'm all dark right now, so I'm trying to
okay, so
find
Brady's
a
gonna
spot.
send me text messages for everything he wants me to say for him.
If you're listening on the podcast, Brady is walking all around the house.
I can't find a place. I can't find a home.
I was gonna say you're missing some visual fun if you're just hearing this right now.
I was in the weight
Brady, you could have
room.
just come over here tonight for this. It probably
I didn't think I was gonna be this like I was getting texts from my in-laws like, it's so loud down there. So, we'll see.
That's my fault. I laugh very loud.
Yeah, I mean, y'all didn't know you were going to get a tour of a house as part of the video. It's very nice.
My temporary basement. It's amazing. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, we were just talking about downtime.
Talk about downtime.
You're right.
It's apropos. Yeah, I mean, I would say as someone playing this and having played every MDS game, even the ones that aren't delivered yet for review coverage.
Ooh la la.
I mean, this one is. I was playing a 3-player game with one completely new player and one mostly new player last weekend, and you're playing your turn 90% of the time, 95% of the play time. Like running the AI takes 10 seconds, and I'll take a little bit of credit because I know Peter and I like kind of pushed you guys to put the simultaneous take your turns together variant in Street Masters.
Yeah.
So this one is another one where it's like kind of free form, like, hey, Jason, you take this action. That'll set me up to do this awesome action. And then, now Brady can do that action. And now Adam can come in with his cleanup thing and kill like 3 guys at once. The game definitely has like those kind of things. So the player turns are very fast. There's basically no downtime. And kind of to your point, Jason, I think some of the MDS games and Sentinels and Aeon's End, like you said, can have a ramp up problem, like a ramp up of like red tape and bureaucracy to work through on your turn, right. And this does not have that at all, at least in the scenarios I've played so far. Like the villain now has 18 cards out and you got to resolve them all. It's just whatever 2 cards come out for that turn, that's it. Whatever cards you play that turn, that's it. You don't have cards that are chilling in your play area, complicating your kind of play space every turn.
Yeah, and just to follow up on what you said there, Mike, I think what really helps that the integration of turns where it feels like you're kind of it's pretty open to do what you want to do. It's definitely a credit to David and Trevor's original turn structure in the battle mode, because they have it where I do 2 cards, you do 2 cards, I do 2 cards, you do 2 cards. So they kind of take our turns and basically we each have 2 turns integrated with each other. So that's kind of carried over in raid mode where the heroes all they play 2 cards and then they stop. Once everybody has 2 cards out, play stops, the villain goes, and then the heroes do the rest of their stuff and the villain goes again. So there's a nice little integration in one round where everybody seems to go like have 2 turns sort of. So that kind of really helps make it feel like you're always doing something.
Cool. All right, that is all my questions about Dire Alliance. What did I miss?
The one important thing that people will notice when they go to the Kickstarter page is that like I mentioned earlier, we have Dire Alliance Horror and we have Horror Series 1, which is a line of miniatures that are really designed to be used for whatever horror game you want. You know, if you want to just have some cool miniatures to paint, you want some stuff for your role-playing games, whatever. But all of this stuff,
I got Horrified minis.
yeah,
there you
go. All of the miniatures are specifically designed to replace the tokens that are for the characters in Dire Alliance Horror. So Dire Alliance Horror is a board game with tokens and cards, and we made it so it's as low as a price point as possible for one of our games. But if you want to go all out and get a whole line of miniatures with it, we have a combo pledge in the Kickstarter, so you can kind of get everything as if it's a big Street Master style game. So.
And something I'll say just again as a player who's helped out a little bit. I think anybody who has loved Sadler Brothers games in the past, at least so far, I see this as fully worth the value just for co-op solo, even if you never play competitive. And I think if you're coming looking for that MDS experience, clearly it's not the same exact thing, but the classes play vastly differently, and whichever hero you combine with them can change things up a lot too. Like they all have their own special mechanics. They each have completely unique cards with special powers. And something, I think, Brady, you mentioned it for a second, but it's one of my favorite mechanics of the game. So I want to give it a little bit more of a shout out, is as you play cards, and Jason, you're the one who hasn't played the game, so I'll kind of explain to you the most. So as you play cards from your hero deck, you can either play them face down for a basic action, like to move, to attack, do that kind of thing. Or you can play them face up, and generally that won't give you a full action. It'll give you like a little boost. You'll get to do like some little special thing, but you won't be able to do a full attack. But the cards you play face up add to your stats for the rest of the turn. So if I can combo it, so I play like, okay, I'm not killing somebody with this first card, but it's giving me +2 melee attack. And now I play a card face down, and instead of rolling 2 dice, I'm rolling 4 dice, and I just take everybody out this entire turn. And for the whole turn, I get that bonus to my stats. So I think it's like a really cool, it really, as simple as the card play can be, because this is not a complex game, I've found it's really interesting how it kind of increases the decision space, because I can theoretically do more on my turn by playing like all my cards face down, but sacrificing power. Like my character will be less effective in everything they do. And vice versa, if I play everything face up, I might accomplish almost nothing, but man, I'll be a powerhouse with all of these stat boosts. So it's a cool system, and I had nothing to do with that one. Like I feel bad because I was like, hey, I really love, I love that you get rewarded for killing people. And Brady's like, yeah, you told us to do that. I'm like, oh, I'm a jerk. But yes, something that I had nothing to do with.
Bossy.
I think it's a great system. I really love the like stat boosting and kind of the choice between face down and face up. It's a really neat thing on your player turn.
Yeah, good thing you bring that up, because I forgot to mention that. Like one of the most powerful things in the game is moving. Like the game is all about positioning, and usually the only way to do a move is playing a card face down, unless you have some weird special ability that lets you do it. So you want to move a lot in the game, but you don't want to move 4 times, because then you can't do anything else in your turn and your stats suck. So.
Yeah, and a cool thing that we actually just recently added that seems to be working well is a way to kind of make damage and healing and action economy even more interesting is you can always just choose to exert your hero once per phase, just losing the top card of your deck as damage, which you don't know what it is. So if like you only happen to have like maybe 1 hero card in your deck, but you have to go up to get to the villain to hit him, and you lose a card, it happens to be your hero card, you're setting yourself up to be like just hammered the next run and possibly die if you don't have another copy of your hero card anywhere. So it's cool. It's like it gives you a lot of freedom, but it's very risky. So it's been working out pretty well.
All right, so that was a whole pile of Dire Alliance Horror, which is the first set. We are going to get more sets. If I ask, they're just going to be like, I always ask and I never get the answer, so it's like just Dire Alliance :
something.
Good luck.
we got lots of plans for Dire Alliance.
You name it.
Depending on how it does, and we're looking at some decent interest in terms of the website. I will have a link to the, I guess it's the pre-order. Like, I think we're going to be launching this episode just a couple of days before. So you'll be able to mosey on over to that website. Just check out the link below. I imagine you'll put the link in whatever One Stop Co-op Shop.
Yeah, of course.
Podcast. We'll get the link over there. You'll be able to get notified when the project launches. And
day one backers get a free count miniature and leader card deck. So it's a freebie for anybody who backs the first day. If you miss out, you can still get it as an add-on, but you save yourself like $5 or something like that by going day one backing.
Is that backing at any level, Adam, or do you have to back for like the full game or full miniature pledge?
I think it's any level, but I'll just say combo pledge. Just you have to get everything.
You have to. You have to go all in.
I'm backing at $1. I want a free miniature.
I'm pretty sure it's at least a pledge level. I know that.
There you go. All right, so that is live on Tuesday, October 27th.
Yep.
Not too long from when we post this episode. So that is Dire Alliance Horror, not an MDS game, but cards and dice and co-op and all the stuff that you have come to love from the Sadlers. All right, so if you've listened to any of these episodes before, I usually like to follow up because these, both of these gentlemen, active readers, consume a lot of pop culture content and geek content, and all this stuff is informed with a background of all sorts of crazy stuff that's going on there. So I like to hit some usually top three. We don't want to be here all night. So we've done top fantasy, we've done top video games, we've done top comic books, and now this one was easy. we have to hit the horror phase, and I know that Brady and Adam have been roaring to go. And Michael Kelly, if you don't know, teaches film and is a film buff. So when I asked him, it's like, oh, hey, do you like horror? He's like, what do you think?
I do like horror movies. Are we doing top 3 horror movies, Jason?
Horror IP.
Oh, geez.
So it could be movie, could be, all the, I gave you a warning about this.
Yeah, I know. I forgot, dude. I forgot. We talked about this a while ago. Can I just say like Batman to rep for my man, Derek Rodriguez and his love?
Yeah, right.
All right, let me think. One of the Sadlers go first.
So we'll do 3 to 1, and we'll go like 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1.
Cool.
I am a huge teddy bear. I am not a horror guy at all. I am not, but I'm going to participate. I came up with 3. You guys may laugh or not, but I will choose to participate in my own little ways. But I will definitely defer to the masters of horror on the rest of the channel. So let's go in alphabetical order. Let's go Adam first.
All right. So I had a whole bunch of stuff on here, and I have to watch out because I don't know. I'm trying not to overlap with Brady because I'm sure we have very intertwining interests.
Sure.
But I'm going to go ahead and start with something that I always terrified me as a kid, but as I grew older, I just learned to love it, and that's the Alien franchise,
Sure.
the Alien movies. Those were
The first one.
What's that?
Just the first one. Just the first one.
First one.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
man,
if
come
you're
on.
going full horror, the
Aliens
first
is
one
great.
is the best word.
Right.
I like Aliens also, but the first one's
I think
definitely the
Aliens was
coolest.
the first one I saw as a kid. But going back, I think I was like in my late teens, or whatever. I bought the Alien DVD at Best Buy in one of those boxes or whatever, and I watched it, and I didn't realize just how awesome the first movie was. I don't know, and that just opened the door to me watching the rest of them, and it's just such an iconic horror genre for me. So
the greatest line I heard about the Alien movies was that in the Alien, the gun is empty, and in Aliens, the gun is loaded.
Yeah.
pretty much.
Well, until they take away all their big guns and say they want to use harsh language instead,
Yeah, right. All right, Brady, you are up. Number 3, horror IP.
I'll do an honorary mention first since we just came off of Dire Alliance because the Castlevania franchise was a huge influence on most of Dire Alliance. But that's just an honorary mention. Number 3.
The cartoon. Do you approve of the cartoon?
Yeah, I'm not crazy about a lot of the dialogue and stuff. It's kind of some of it's a little like it's not super captivating, but it's got really high moments. It's got super high moments.
I mean, I'm all in on the cartoon.
It's
I
awesome.
actually think this latest season was better than the first 2. I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
The action. Yeah, just a quick shout out. The action choreography.
Yeah.
And the way, what's her name? Bernades Sophia, is that her name? The
Yes, yeah,
sorceress?
Sophia, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, like the things she does with magic, like it is my favorite, like strong female magician character I've ever seen in fights. She does the coolest things. Anyway, sorry, Brady, I'm interrupting.
No, it's fine. No, it's fine. That was just like an honorary mention because I felt like I had to mention it for the influence.
Sure.
But 3, this is like not super scary, but like it's in that horror genre, and it's the Buffy vampire series, Vampire Slayer, just because. You know, like just the time of my life when I was into that show, and I still watch it with my daughter and stuff. So it's.
You mean Angel?
It's in the.
I like the Angel too.
It's in the
Angel
Buffyverse.
too.
Angel is better, but Buffy has.
I think I enjoyed Angel better after I watched it.
As a show, I think Angel's better. I just think the Buffy, like just the nostalgia it has and everything, just it's got a place.
All right.
All right. Well, I love Buffy and I love Alien and Aliens, but I'll take both those off. So I'll go with I'll mess up Brady because I know this is probably his number 1, and I'll do Resident Evil franchise.
Let me cross that off my list real quick.
Yeah. So Resident Evil.
It's not the franchise though; it's just the first game. It's just the first.
No.
game.
I'm into the franchise. So I was playing the first one. That was one of my, along with like Silent Hill, I would say. That was one of like my first forays into really like freak me out video games.
Yeah.
I used to play like Splatterhouse on the Sega Genesis and stuff, but that's that's not really scary. So Resident Evil, the first one with the terrible like B dialogue and like dogs jumping through windows and lickers and oh my gosh, like that stuff was terrifying. And I've continued to play through them like with hits and misses there. I really enjoy Resident Evil 4, of course, is classic. Resident Evil 2 is one of my top game like experiences of all time, and the remake is amazing for that one.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
We could have a whole podcast so I can tell you that why 4 is just the worst of the series. But it's a fantastic game, but it's not.
I love 4 for itself. I think it took the series in a bad direction. It went away from survival horror. I'm sure we agree on that.
It's a very innovative
game. That will not be my podcast. You guys can go have your own podcast.
And then the films are kind of fun for those as well. At least the first 2 before they kind of go totally ape. What's your rating? Before they go totally wild.
I'm a
the
Dice
first
Tower
2
reviewer,
movies
sir.
are pretty good.
You be careful.
The CG ones are much better than the live action. The CG ones are really good.
Oh, you like them better? Oh,
yeah, better than the films. Yeah, there's the degeneration.
Oh, I'm sorry. You mean the fully CGI movies?
Yes,
I like those. Yes.
Those are great.
I thought you meant the later Mila Jovovich ones. And
No,
those are terrible.
No, I meant like the degeneration and I forget the other one, but there's some really good CG ones.
Yeah.
I think I could reduce Resident Evil down to just Resident Evil 2, and that would be enough for me to be like obsessed. I that game right there is Resident Evil for me. Like I love Resident Evil 2. So
perfect example of a game I will not play. I've never played. No, thank you. So my number 3 though, I'm gonna go to the movie realm, and I'm actually gonna go up from when I was a kid, and kind of up ages. So like the first movie that kind of really freaked me out, when my parents subjected me to it, because my dad was like that. It's like, you gotta watch this. The Shining. So just like I still remember this, and I have very few memories from when I was a kid, but I still remember spoilers for like a 55-year-old movie. But like the whole thing of like the build up and like, Jack is in the house and he's kind of slowly degenerating. He's trying to write his novel, and then like seeing the wife come in and seeing the novel and like all work and no play make Jack and Del Boy like typed 75,000 times, and like the look on his face and the lighting and the shading, and then everything kind of like spun out from there. And like I still remember, just like it's still lodged in my head how affecting the performance was. I think it really did kind of break Jack Nicholson, in some way. And
he was too good at it.
It was a little too good, and then the Red Rum and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But just like in terms of convincing me that I shouldn't watch too many of these movies, but it's not good for me. But that's probably a sign of a good horror movie.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with The Shining for my number 3.
I like it.
Classic.
You just crossed one off my list, so I'll figure out another one.
I love Mike's dynamic list over there. He's like, oh, yes, no.
I mean, I'm just making it up right now, so it's fine.
Don't pick mine, Adam. Don't pick mine.
Number 2. He is up for his number 2. Horror IP, movie, game, anything.
All right. I don't know if it's his. I'm sure it would be on your list, but I'm going to say The Walking Dead.
Okay. It's good, but it's not it. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah. So, I mean, season 1 of the AMC show is enough to be like, that's awesome. That's a great show. I love it. But I like the comics. I read the comics a lot. And I did like a lot of the AMC show. hit or miss toward the end and stuff like that. And the late seasons was just, they're obsessed with just slow motion shots of everybody's face at the end of every episode for like 20 minutes. Got sick of that. But overall, the way they handled the zombies in the show, how it's like kind of like this backdrop to just how terrible people can be to each other, and like the dynamics of trying to survive in this world with like limited resources and dwindling trust among everybody. It's fantastic drama, great show, great story. It's great, awesome. great way to handle zombies. So
nice.
Yeah, that wasn't mine, but that's a good one. My number 2 is the landmark highest achievement of cinema with horror, the Scream franchise.
That's my.
It is not, is it? Is it, Adam?
That was on my list.
It's
Scream is great, Jason. Come on.
It's yeah. I haven't watched the TV show that I keep seeing on Netflix, but all the films are just.
All the films? Are you serious?
Yeah, I was about to
don't know
say.
about all the films.
I love all the films. I love 1 through 4.
Really?
Four wasn't
Great.
like anywhere near as great, but like having everybody come back and stuff, just like seeing the cast again, it just was. It was worth the trip.
I think the first movie alone is good.
Yeah,
like
the first movie is all you need. I think 2 is just kind of a celebration of how ridiculous it is, and then 3 it just goes even more. But 4 is kind of goofy in a lot of ways. But I'm so excited.
I think
for 5.
anybody who like grew up watching those slasher flicks and stuff like that,
right,
kind of gets the humor of Scream. But also, I mean, there's some creepy parts when you're younger and you watch it. It's pretty scary, but it's kind of just like this strange love letter to slasher flicks.
Yeah, when I was a teenage boy, there was nobody in the world that was hotter than Nev Campbell in that movie.
Oh my god!
Oh, Sydney.
Okay. Number 2. Did you weed through all of the already mentioned IPs?
So this one was a pretty seminal movie for me as like a horror movie watcher, because I was not a huge horror fan as a kid. I did watch The Shining a lot, but I would always cover my eyes whenever like the little twins would show up.
Twins are creepy, man.
What's wrong with twins?
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
No, when they're like hacked up twins on the floor. So
that's when we're the best.
That's right. So for me, it's the Evil Dead franchise.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
So,
that show was so good.
Yeah. Well, and even taking away Ash versus Evil Dead, Evil Dead 1. I think I saw after I saw Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, which I know is like kind of the Evil Dead journey for a lot of people. Evil Dead 1 is a pretty serious, like low budget horror movie. It's very terrifying. There's some horrific stuff with like trees and such.
Yeah, bizarre stuff.
Yeah, bizarre. But Evil Dead 2, I think, was the first thing that really hooked me into the idea of like campy horror and like gore as so over the top that you kind of stop seeing it as a horrific element and start seeing it as funny.
Oh yeah.
And if we hadn't had Evil Dead, I don't think we get like something like Tucker and Dale versus Evil. I don't think we get Cabin in the Woods. Like these movies that are some of my favorites, I don't think would ever happen without the Evil Dead franchise. So I love that one. It kind of helped me. I became more at peace with horror movies because of the like ridiculous joy in horror of those movies. And like you're laughing 1 minute and then like screaming the next. I love that.
Yeah.
It's definitely taught me where nowadays when I watch horror movies, I'm usually laughing at things because of movies like that. It just like kind of rewired my brain to make it funny and not scary.
Brady stole my number 2. As a teenager, it is Scream. I'm not going to punk out. I'm not going to be like, I need a different one now. No, a solid number 2. The whole meta thing, obviously the rules.
Oh, it's amazing.
And the white chick is supposed to run and all that kind of stuff. I will mention Scary Movie.
Oh yeah.
The Keenan Ivory Wayans parody.
That's a smart film. It's a smart film.
Those were usually really dumb. But like the fact that Scream was kind of built as a meta, so able to kind of like meta the meta and kind of like get into a conversation with each other. And Scary Movie, not scary, but redoing some of the stuff, and like I just felt like for all this like stupidity of Wayans Brothers movies, that one is about as Brady was saying, as smart as you're gonna get in terms of commentary and funniness and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, I think it's a quality film.
Scary Movie.
Yeah.
Scary Movie 3 was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Are you kidding me?
That was only Charlie Sheen, right?
Eject. Where is it?
That was the one that parodied the signs a lot, right? Yeah, that was.
Where we finish each other's dinner.
Horrendous. All right, Adam, is your number 1 Resident Evil?
No, I had that as a close one. Nobody actually got my top one, which is actually interesting because it's not really like a horror. It's strange because it's more of a new thing. It's something I've recently experienced, and it's like probably one of the best horror experiences I've ever had. And that was the Netflix show Haunting of Hill House.
Yes,
That's amazing.
It's fantastic. Like something about that show gives me this nostalgic vibe of this family moving into this house, like classic horror movie setup, But the way the show handles all of the horror, it's so creepy. Like even creeped me out, and I thought I was kind of immune to that these days.
It elevates the whole genre, I think. It's it goes beyond just horror, but yeah, it's really creepy too.
It's creepy in an artistic way. Like I mean, you want to watch it, and it's like, yes, it's creepy, but it's something I think everybody should see it. It's just really well done, great acting. The kid from E.T. The kid from E.T. is the dad.
Yeah. It's got a weird empathy to the horror. It's kind of like this horror that you want to understand. It's like you're the characters and you want to understand what's trying to haunt you or something. It's so weird and crazy. And
I think The Haunting of Bly Manor is like the season 2 of it or whatever that's coming out this month or whatever. But yeah, if you haven't seen it yet on Netflix, you watch that show. It's great. My wife wouldn't watch it with me, especially at night. She did watch it, but I had to do it during the day. She doesn't like horror. But it's great horror show.
Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, so I am gonna punk out because my one was definitely Resident Evil.
Yeah, sorry,
but no, it's fine because I am like I just consumed that franchise all through my teenage years, and I still love it and everything. But I think I want to bring some more horror to the table just for the viewers. So I'm going to also mention another honorary mention is It. Both the novel and the new book. The new movies are just incredible.
That was on my list.
It's like both chapter 1 and 2.
20 for Adam. My God, just give him the floor.
I keep having to cross stuff off.
That is the hardest that anyone has ever worked as a guest on my podcast. My God, thank you so much.
Yeah, I think the new films. I mean, the old made for TV show back in the day with Tim Curry. Everyone always like raves about how amazing he was as Pennywise. I love Tim Curry, but I think he was awful as Pennywise. It was not what I expected from, like, not what I wanted out of the book. It's just when you read the book, it's not what you see. It's kind of this goofy, like broad daylight type stuff. But, but yeah, the movies, I forget the guy's name. Bill Skarsgård was the guy that played Pennywise. He's in that new show, Castle Rock, that they're doing, which is also would be on my list if I was in like a top 10 or something.
You can just say Stephen King.
Stephen King, yeah. But yeah, the It movies, I love the book. As much as I love the book, I think the movies are even better.
Man,
those two movies.
The way, just the subtle things that he does in that movie where he drools very subtly when he's like talking to kids.
Slobbering like, I want to eat this kid so bad.
I was waiting for somebody to mention It. Yes. Cool. All right.
It's Michael's fault because it would have been Resident Evil if it wasn't.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. This is like not my number one necessarily because I'm just kind of cobbling this list together. I'll throw out a feew good things.
The least that anyone has ever worked as a guest on my podcast
yeah, there you
is
go,
Michael Kelly right there.
I love to be average.
I'll throw out a few recommendations. Rec, R-E-C, that's a Spanish horror movie, like found footage, incredible, but very disturbing and very graphic, so just be aware of that. One you can watch on Netflix, I think it's a Netflix original that is excellent, is Hush. Any of you guys seen Hush?
Yes.
Oh, no, I think I've seen the trailer for it, but I haven't watched it.
It's pretty amazing. Like, it's almost only 2 characters the entire movie. Cool. The main female lead is deaf, and it's just amazing what they do with sound in that movie, like really great one. But the one I'm going to end with, because I think it's one I show to my film students all the time, and it's one that I'm allowed to show to them because of ratings being fun. And it's also not as intense. If people like looking for a horror movie that is pretty freaky, but also has like really good familial messages and is not too disturbing if you talk through it. The Poltergeist series, specifically Poltergeist 1 and 2.
I love those, yeah.
Poltergeist 2 I watched on repeat as a kid. Like it was on TV more than Poltergeist 1. I'm still like haunted in my dreams by the Reverend character singing quietly to himself. Like it shouldn't be scary. It's just an old guy, like nice looking guy, like singing like nice little songs, like hymns to himself. But man, it freaked me out. And then Poltergeist 1 is an almost perfect movie. Like it's beautiful. And and in both like the themes of like familial distress and alcoholism in the second one and like how they deal with it and how they kind of bring the horror elements into it. It's great. And actually, I'll just throw out one more. The Babadook. That's one from.
My God, the Babadook.
God, that was
I think
so
it's
good.
Yeah, I think
So
it's New
good.
Zealand or Australia. But now, if you're a parent like me, just be a little careful because
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
it's going to mess you up. But it's an amazing, amazing film. So
It's
there you go.
incredible. Yeah.
Okay, so my number one, I went childhood, then I went teenager, and this one is a recent one, and I'm very surprised. I thought you were going to mention it in your litany of movies there, but Get Out
Oh God, you're
man,
right. Oh
yes.
was my
Yes.
number one
So good.
for many reasons. I mean, just the cinematically, and all the different tropes and everything, but like. I am a minority. I am not Black, but I am a minority, and I have had the experience, especially when I was younger, because I got like a lot of scholarships. So I'd like get invited as the minority to like white people's benefactors' houses and stuff. And look at what your money's doing. You're kind of saving these people, and so like and I kind of be paraded around a little bit, and it's like I'm getting an education, so I got to kind of be subjected to this. So just the going into these people's houses under those auspices, like rich houses, and like you can't even believe what's going on, and there's like you can't describe the dread
Yeah.
that like I don't belong here, and like they took it to like 7 other levels. Like, okay, not only do you not belong here, they're going to slice you up and eat you, and do all sorts of crazy things to you and enslave you and all this other stuff. But like they use that movie to encapsulate a very particular feeling that minorities feel, like that uncomfort. And that's what horror is. Horror isn't the slasher movie. Horror, well, I mean, it is, but like the soul of horror is that discomfort.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'll never ever. I know I'll never ever feel what you're describing, but I feel like that movie is probably the closest I'll ever get, which is why I think that movie was so damn effective, because I felt like I could understand like the analogy there that they were trying to do, and it was so good.
Just that scene alone where he's standing outside and that dude starts sprinting toward him out of nowhere. I was like, what is going on?
That's so crazy.
Well,
but Bradley Whitford was the perfect cast for that creepy guy too. Oh my God.
That's what I was going to say. When we discussed Get Out in my film class, the thing that I think is like the genius move of it, and a few movies have done this recently, is they don't take what might be seen as the easy road and make it overtly like highly racist in like kind of a traditional sense people. They're like
not
the
like,
well-meaning,
a guy in a pickup truck with a shotgun saying, N-word.
Yeah, it's not like Deliverance. It's it's well-meaning white people who would have voted for Obama a third term. As they
I was going to say that quote.
and like I think this is kind of getting into my educational background, and I'm sure Jason, you deal with all this kind of stuff too. But like getting into trying to educate my students on like anti-racism and sorry, Jason, this is Shelf Stories. You talk about this kind of stuff. It's okay, right?
Sure.
But, getting into like anti-racism and not viewing racism as overt like acts, but as microaggressions and as like the atmosphere we create for people and silencing them. And hey, on that note, let me stop talking and let Jason finish his point.
Right? Talk over the minority.
I apologize.
Tell you how you feel here.
I'm breaking my own damn thing here, so you go ahead.
I don't know, just like that. I mean, I was saying before about the feeling of discomfort, right? And you can play out that discomfort in like a violent way. You can play it out in like, I'm going to eat you. I'm the clown that's like drooling and about to eat you and everything. But then there's just like the discomfort of I don't belong here. And like these very nice people are trying, very, very nice. I can't talk about these people. I can't like call the police on them or anything. They're just really nice. But I don't belong here.
Right.
And playing up that dread so much and like layering on that whole like kind of face switching thing. It was just, it was a brilliant movie. And I can't wait. Like I haven't started, what's the HBO show now?
Lovecraft Country.
Lovecraft Country.
I have not started it. What's the review on that?
I was actually going to bring that up.
I personally am like just mesmerized by it.
That was on my list, actually. I was like, this is kind of new and I'm not done with it yet, but it's definitely really good. It's a very good take on typical Lovecraft stuff. And it's that period where it shows how, Black people lived in this time period and what they had to deal with. But they're also throwing in this horror, stuff like that, but then they have to face it. They're the ones standing up and taking care of it. It's just really, really interesting show. And
it's much more like overt, like what you're saying, that Get Out's not overt. This is much more overt, but there's still these subtleties of like taking those like overt racist topics and everything, and layering it with the whole, like, you know, the Lovecraft mythos and everything, and like this whole cosmic horror aspect. But it translates so well because they're just like kind of these mirror images of each other in different ways. But every episode makes the show better and better. It's been an incredible
I will
experience.
admit that like the third episode, I was kind of like, I don't know what's going on. And then immediately after that, every episode after that has been more and more interesting. Like it's been better and better.
The cast is so good. So good. Such a good cast.
Lots of horror over here. And we didn't even mention like the classic slasher films. We didn't even mention the Friday the 13th and the Halloween.
I almost put Halloween in for mine.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare.
I like Nightmare.
That
I
one
like
was
all those.
revolutionary, man.
But I mean, Halloween was probably my top one of like the classic slashers, just especially the original.
One that also doesn't get talked about a lot, but is like the Silence of the Lambs and the Red Dragon, stuff like that. Like that's really cool, like psychological horror, stuff like that. I watched the new that it was not new, but that show from like 2016. Was it called Red Dragon or was it called Hannibal?
Hannibal with what's his name? Danish guy or whatever.
He's the bad guy from Doctor Strange, whatever his name.
Yeah.
But he's a fantastic Hannibal Lecter.
Mads Mikkelsen.
That sounds right. I'm gonna take your word on
We're gonna go with that.
I'm pretty sure I'm right.
But yeah, I watched that show and then maybe go back and watch Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon with Edward Norton and stuff like that. And that whole like kind of setting is really great horror. Like, you know, the psychological where this psychiatrist is basically committing all these awful acts, and he's Mr. Nice Guy. He invites people over to dinner and he feeds them his kill. Just like it's so dark.
When I almost mentioned the Living Dead franchise, and especially Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead, I mean, Night of the Living Dead is still, I think, it's crazy. Like when I show my students that one, and I'm like, this came out so long before you would think you would have a black like male lead in a movie, you know, and like have the hick cops. Spoiler, skip ahead for 30 seconds. Like the you know, like these Southern cops kill him in the end, like in this like meaningless act that just like is lingered on, like. It blows their mind. They're like, man, they wouldn't have made this movie like 10 years ago. Anyway, I just wanted to shout that one out too.
This is the Sadler brothers. You see, they have steeped themselves in all this, you know, content. It's books, it's movies, it's lore, it's D&D, it's all these like IPs that have been, you know, the Sadlers are thematic designers. You know, like they've designed thematic games. You're not going to get too many abstract, if anything, from these gentlemen, and they bring all of that stuff into the design of Dire Alliance. So if you made it this far, thank you guys very much. Sadlers, thank you so much. Michael Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time. Anything else? Any other parting words about the game or anything else?
No, just thanks for having us on. Appreciate it. It's been a blast.
It's always fun. Always fun to talk to you guys and talking horror and games. You know, we work on. It's all fun. It's all fun. Thanks for having us.
So I hope you enjoyed that shelf story. This is Jason reminding you that if you can change your mind, you can change the world. So until next time, later, everybody.
Bye.
Kablamo. That
Blam.
funny to me.
Blam, blam, blammo.